Welcome to State of the Industry. We're so excited that you guys are all here with us today. Every time we do this silly introduction, which feels funny, but also there's a reason for it. So I am Katie Hardman. I'm the Chief Opportunity Officer for the Experienced Brokerage Network and the team leader of Keller Williams Sunset Corridor. And I am joined today by my partner and co-host, Leslie. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, thank you, Katie. Of course, I am Leslie Hilbert. I am the general manager of the Experienced Brokerage Network, which, of course, as you know, encompasses 4 incredible Keller Williams market centers here in the state of Oregon. And the reason we do this is because, Katie, we are growing every single day here at the network. So since the last time we did this broadcast, we have welcomed 20 additional new XBN and KW family members. So there's all of their names on the board. Welcome to our new family members. Welcome to the network. Welcome to Keller Williams. We're excited to be in business with you. Make sure that if you see a face that goes with those names, that you give them a warm welcome in all of our market centers. So Katie, let's show our new family members what XBN and the State of the Industry is all about.
All right, let's get started. So we have 3 announcements before we get to why you guys are all really here. But we steal a little bit of this time because we feel like we get a lot of you to talk about a few things. One is next week is Mega Camp, and I guess it's never too late. So if you have not bought your ticket and you want to go to Austin, Texas next week, it's going to be only 109 degrees. However, you'll be in an air-conditioned room for the CEO Summit with Gary Keller. Mega Camp is actually the 15th and the 16th. And then if you have any aspirations to be a speaker or a presenter or a trainer within Keller Williams, on the 17th is the Instructor Development Workshop, which is a phenomenal class to take to learn how to properly be an instructor and be on your way to become a Keller Williams University Master Faculty member. So 3 great opportunities next week within our KW ecosystem in Austin, Texas. And the latest news that we heard on Monday is if you've been waiting for MREA 2, that's Millionaire Real Estate Agent Book 2.0, that has been talked about for years and years and years and hasn't come out, they're actually going to be announcing and giving out at Mega Camp the next best thing. Well, actually, I think it might even be better than the book is they are giving out the playbook. So along with the strategies and the thought process behind MREA, they're going to give you the how to implement and the step-by-step process and playbook on how to implement a millionaire real estate agent system into your business. So be on the lookout for the announcement of that if you're going to Mega Camp, and if you're not, shortly after they will be releasing it to the general population of Keller Williams. So something very exciting coming out at Mega Camp. Be on the lookout. The next
I didn't get that.
Could you try? Siri would like me to tell you again. Sorry, my watch went off. So the next thing is this is right around the corner. You guys Built How live in Phoenix, September 12th through the 14th. And because you are all part of the Experienced Brokerage Network, you get a 25% off discount. So I'll put the link in the chat in just a second. And when I do, make sure when you sign up to use the code BUILT25 to get 25% off your ticket. And this is a phenomenal event where you get to hear from top agents across all brokerages and across the country. So this is another great event to attend if you're looking to build your business and grow in the next year. Okay, one more announcement, you guys, and this one is local and kind of exciting. So Leslie, I'm going to let you do this one.
I love it. So now that we went over some great experiences that you have to travel for, we are super excited to announce something that our agents have been asking for right here at home. We have incredible productivity coaches throughout the network that are already offering a comprehensive PC coaching program for our new agents and one-on-one coaching, but you guys have been asking for group coaching for those that you are hyper focused on your productivity with a local coach. So we are really excited to announce that the amazing Mara Gregory and Jen Seidelman will be launching their brand new group coaching programs. And we wanted to make sure that everybody in our network was able to access this and make it easy for you. And they are going to be offering 3 easy ways that you can financially engage in getting group coaching to make sure that anybody and everybody has the ability to take advantage of this amazing productivity program. So for more information, reach out on either group coaching, productivity coaching, or their one-on-one option. You can reach out to Mara and Jen directly for more information and get the information on the next launch of the small group program. So that's it, Katie.
Awesome. Okay, that concludes our announcements for the morning, which means we can really talk about and introduce the person and the reason that you guys are all here today. I'm super excited and honored that he has joined the Experience Brokerage Network for the morning, even though he said he's in some random spot in Utah. You guys, how amazing is it that we get my slides are running really slow. Brian Gubernick, who is the host of the No Days Off podcast, to join us and talk about what are the hot topics that are going on in the industry, what are the hot topics that are going on in the podcast, and really bring value to us today. So Brian, thank you for being here. Welcome to the State of the Industry. And I'm going to hand it over to you to do your proper introduction and take it away.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. And this view you put me on, this spotlight view, this might be the most uncomfortable thing. I've never seen this before. What
You're
is
big
this?
on all the screens.
I gotta get that thing turned off. I was big on my own screen. I was talking to myself. Well, thank you all for having me. I really appreciate it. I know I've had the chance to hang out with a number of you on this call. I don't know, maybe a year or so ago, whenever I was here last, but I appreciate you having me back. I'm really excited to be chatting with y'all and some different things going on in my world. And I hope I get to talk about them today and break it down. My guess is a lot of you don't know who I am. So I probably should start with like, who the hell is this guy that is going to take up some of our morning, which, by the way, Katie, how much time do I have? Not that I'm going to use it all, but how much do I have so I don't screw this up?
You have 49 minutes.
All right, 49 minutes. Awesome. So we'll probably go somewhere around 48 minutes. So I've been at it in this real estate game since 2005, licensed in 06, and joined KW in February of 2007. So it's crazy for me to think about it, but I'm 16 years into my KW and sales career. Man, I really think I'm at the start of my career, though my gray hair would say otherwise. I've been at it for a little bit, and I've worn virtually every hat within the industry, from being an agent to solo producer to small team to bigger team to taking my team to multiple states, and then in the market center ownership world and title and escrow and mortgage, and then spent a good portion of the past 7 or 8 years in coaching and training. And today, I am alongside Chris Suarez and Ben and team at Place, and I've got this chief real estate officer role, which I'm not really even sure what that means. I think it just allows me to kind of do a bunch of different stuff, and it falls under a title. But my job over there, what I'm trying to do, where I'm spending my time, is where I always spend my time, which is working with top performers and getting their businesses to the level they want to get them to, both in terms of strategy and operations and all of that. So I'm very hands-on. I'm very in the trenches, and I'd like to think that every day, I live and play in the exact same world in which you all are operating. Now, today is going to be a little bit different, though, because what I'd like to chat around, while it's all related, of course, to real estate, for the past, I guess, 5 months now, I have been running a podcast, and everybody has a podcast, so there's nothing special there. But I've been running a podcast. It's called the No Days Off podcast, and every morning at 6 a.m., I put out an episode. Oh, I see Suarez on this call now. The pressure is on. I'm going to have to really perform. He just thought he was going to sneak on and I wasn't going to notice him. I see him there. So good morning, Chris. Every morning I put out an episode, and an episode's 5 to 10 minutes, and it's on a topic that, whatever topic I feel is important to share. But the concept is that every single day, every one of us has an opportunity to get better at something. And I'm kind of crazy around this concept. Like I have a lot of energy around this concept because I believe that every single one of us on this call, there's 84 participants on this call right now, 85 when we let Maddie in here. 85 of us on this call that have a desire, a strong desire to get uncommon results, to get to have success differently than those around us, to just not be the status quo. I'm going to assume you're on the call with me today. You have a desire to learn, therefore you want to get better. Hopefully I teach you a few things, but the idea here is you want to succeed. And I just am a firm believer that in order to succeed, you've got to get weird. You've got to be weird. Now, I know that may sound like a strange comment, right? But the definition of weird is doing things different than the status quo. That's the definition of weird, doing things different than the status quo. I don't know about you guys, but I want my results. I want my output to be different than the status quo. And when I talk around output, and you're going to hear me talk about this a number of times over the next 40 minutes, I'm not just talking about my business. I'm not just talking about the number of units that I'm closing or the amount of GCI I'm creating or my net income. Yes, all of that stuff's super important. But I'm talking about having success outside of the office. I'm talking about success in your health, success in your relationships, success in your personal growth, success in all of these things that matter to you. When I even describe wealth, I think about wealth. Yes, I think about financial wealth, but I ask you, like, what's a wealthy relationship will look like? What's wealth in your health actually look like? Right. So this no days off concept, bringing that back, kind of full circle to what this podcast is about. What I'm sharing are those things that are on my mind that I'm thinking about that I certainly haven't mastered, but they're things I'm studying or I'm putting into practice that I think will get me a slight bit better in these different areas every single day. And if if I had a challenge for everybody here today, if you don't take anything away from this conversation but this one thing, I would consider it a victory. I'm just wondering, like, when you wake up in the morning, are you thinking, how can I get a little bit better in terms of my relationship with my significant other? How can I get a little bit better in terms of my health? How can I get a little bit better in terms of my knowledge around a specific subject? We all have 30 seconds or a minute or 5 minutes or 10 minutes every single day. And thinking like that is freaking weird. Like, that mindset is weird to the vast majority of people, to which I say, hell yeah, good. That's exactly what we're going for if we want different results. So here's what I want to talk about today. So I've been running this podcast, and a few people listen, and there are some episodes that a few more people happen to listen to than others, or they get shared a little bit more often, or I get direct text or whatever it may be. So what I thought, Katie, Leslie, what I thought would be fun today would be for me to share maybe the 4 or 5 episodes that seem to have gotten the greatest response, which, by the way, what I think is going to get great response is usually the worst of the podcasts. And what I think is terrible is usually the best stuff. It's funny how that works, but I've got a good amount of data, and we are actually coming upon our 100th episode. So I've got a pretty good sample size now too. Our 100th episode will be next week. I run them every Monday through Friday. Like I said, they're 5 to 10 minutes each. And so it's really interesting to see what resonates and what doesn't. Well, I want to share with you guys 5 of the very, very top in terms of how many listens or downloads and how many shares. And again, the idea being here, they may not all resonate with you, but hopefully we trigger some things, maybe you'll learn a few things, or at the very least, I am going to take credit for making you think about something that has nothing to do about this conversation today. But if I can get you thinking and you put different action into place today, and it furthers your career or furthers your relationship, your health, or whatever it may be, then I consider that a win. Cool? Give me a head nod if we're good. All right, awesome. So in no exact order, I'm going to run through some things. The very first episode that I ever ran, that I also happened to talk about at Built How just over a year ago, which I hope to see all of you at Built How down in Phoenix, because I think, I'm a little biased. I think it's an amazing conference, but this upcoming Built How, our speaker lineup, as well as the content that Chris and Ben and team are putting together, I think it is the greatest stuff I've ever seen. So I strongly encourage you all to get down there. But I spoke about this particular topic at Built How, and then I had to make it my first episode. And the topic is the common denominator of success. The common denominator of success. See, there's this, I'll give you the brief story here. There's a guy named Albert E.N. Gray, the initials E.N., letters E.N. Albert E.N. Gray. He was an insurance salesman in the 1940s. And Albert went to an insurance conference, much like Mega Camp. I picture it looking just like Mega Camp, where he's around 5,000 insurance brokers from across the nation. He was with Prudential. They're in Philadelphia, and he gets a mic, and he's in front of that crowd. And he says, fellow insurance salespeople, I have found the Holy Grail. I have found what is the common denominator of success. I've studied success across all aspects of life, business, and beyond. And I found that there is one thing that stands out of those that are successful versus those that are not. And he states to this crowd, the common denominator of success is forming habits out of those things that failures just don't like to do. The common denominator of success is forming habits out of those things that failures do not like to do. Now, I let that one sit out there for a moment because I love taking that statement, and I like to think through, maybe even reverse engineer that statement a little bit and apply it to our industry. If I were to ask all of you, and I'm not going to put anybody on the spot, but if I was to call on someone and said, okay, forget about what makes you successful in real estate, what would make you a failure in real estate? If you were to not sell any homes at all over the next 12 months, why would that be? And for sake of time, I'll rattle off some answers, but I think you all probably have things top of mind. Number one, well, I failed to lead generate. Number two, these are just things off the top of my head. They're not in an order. Number two, I didn't manage my time. Number three, when I did get in front of people, I didn't know what to say. Number four, I didn't take my career seriously. Number five, I didn't surround myself with the right people. We could go on and on and on and on. If you think around those that are not winning in the real estate business, there's a really good chance that they are not doing a number of those things, or maybe all of those things that I just mentioned. So to me, I oftentimes think in anything, if I was to outline not what it would take to win, but what would it take to lose? And then I ask myself, if that's what it takes to lose, how do I do the opposite of that? So rather than say what would make for success, which you all would say, well, I've got to lead generate and I got to do it consistently. I got to hit a certain number of contacts regardless of my method of lead generation. And then once I connect with these people, I've got to convert. And then when I convert to appointment, I sit down with them. I've got to say the right things. I got to display the right value. I got to understand the industry. These are all the right things. Think about all the wrong things. Think about it in the opposite order and just stop doing those things. We overcomplicate this game. Forget about business. If I said to you, if the common denominator of success is forming habits out of those things, around those things that failures just don't like to do, let's just say in health. This could be a sensitive topic, but oh well. If you are not winning in your health journey, why might that be? I'm not going to call on anybody, but I know what's on your mind. I'm not eating right. I'm not moving. I'm not sleeping. I'm not hydrating. These would be all of the reasons why you'd fail at health. Not all of them necessarily individually, but in combination, they're going to lead you to failure in health. So it begs the question, if the common denominator of success is forming habits around those things that failures don't like to do, and I want to be a success, I'm successful, then what would you have to do from a health perspective? You got to eat right. You got to sleep. You got to work out. We all know these things. I just think we overcomplicate it. What are we doing? So I aired that episode. It was episode number 1. It is still today the most downloaded episode and the most shared episode, even though I think I came out with 98 other good ones. That one seems to be the one that mattered most, and I actually think it's the simplest. Before I move on, anybody have any quick thoughts around what I just shared? Give me some feedback. Unmute for me and tell me what's going through your mind.
I'll go. We just talked about this during our power up this morning. How are we going to get into consistent habits of lead gen, lead follow-up, the 10 daily steps of Brevity?
Thank you for sharing that, Mary, and thank you for breaking the super awkward silence that I was trying to, force somebody into speaking. Thank you for doing that.
Hey, Brian.
Yep, go ahead.
Hold on a second. I got like 21 microphones in this room, so I don't want to blow everyone's eardrums. I think the value there is that oftentimes you try to come from or find a solution to the problem from the front. Like, it's how we always look at it. It's how we always think about it. It's how we always approach it. But your question sort of flips that and has us sort of back into the answer, which just gives us a different perspective. And so oftentimes if we're struggling because we've tried to solve that problem for a month, 3 months, 6 months, the last couple of years, from the same viewpoint or from the same perspective that we have, as opposed to looking at a different way, gaining a different perspective. So I just find the value in the way that you asked the question.
Thank you, Chris. And I know what you're also thinking, which is the mental model known as inversion, which I know, I've heard you talk around and I've learned from you, and it is reverse, looking at it from the opposite direction and working backwards. And so thanks for sharing that. But, I see in the chat, Nicole, you said don't overcomplicate. And I think that that's a great takeaway, right? Like, if we know what the key to success is, we always we try to find these other paths, but we just look at ourselves in the mirror, say, what would cause failure? Well, you can figure it out pretty quickly what we have to do. So next episode, I'd like to talk around very different topic, but the episode was on the GROW model, GROW. Anybody familiar with GROW, the acronym that is GROW? Let me see a show of hands if you're familiar. Okay, some of you. Cool. So GROW, what that stands for is goal, reality, options, and then the last W, everyone's got a slightly different name for it, but I say way forward. Goal, G is goal, R, reality, O, options, W, way forward. Now, why am I talking about the GROW model? The GROW model is a coaching model. It's also a sales model, but it's also a relationship model or conversations with your wife or husband or significant other and kids model. Bear with me, I'll explain. So when I'm working with a team or an agent or a partner in any business I'm involved in, that framework that is GROW, and any of you that know me on a personal level, I'm probably blowing my cover here now because I use this literally 10 times a day. I'll say, that's great. Tell me, what's the objective here? What's the goal? Okay, cool. That's where you want to go. Where are we currently at right now? What's the reality? Where are we sitting? Okay, got it. Now, if we want to close the gap between where we're at and where we want to go, what are our options? How do you think we make that happen? Okay, if there was another option, what might it be? If there was another option, what might it be? Okay, cool. We got a really good list of options. Of all of the options you just gave me, what one option or combination of options do you think is the way forward? Goal, reality, options, way forward. If I'm coaching somebody, that framework is a phenomenal way to have that conversation. But all of you are in sales, or most all of you are in sales. You sit down with a prospective seller. All right, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, what's your goal? Well, I want to sell my home for as much as I want to sell my home for. Okay, cool. Totally love that. Tell me, where are we at right now? What's the reality? Well, we had it on the market. The home obviously didn't sell, and I'm really frustrated. I'm annoyed with my last agent. No, I totally understand that. So the reality is it didn't sell. Your goal was clear to sell it for as much as possible, as efficiently as possible. So let me ask you, what options do you think are available to make this happen? Well, I could find the right person to sell it. Well, I couldn't agree with you on that one more. Okay, cool. What else? What else is out there? Well, I don't know, maybe pricing. Like, I think we're priced right, but maybe there's something. Okay, cool. What else? Well, it wasn't marketed at all. There was never open houses. Okay, I got you on that. What else? And you can see I can keep going down this what else. All right, great. We have 10 different things we could do differently. I've got a plan put together for you, but I'm really curious of all of those options. What do you think is the path forward? And put it on them. And whatever their answer may be, could you fine tune or craft your response based on what they shared? Of course, one of those options, and I'm going to joke about it. Well, you mentioned one of the options is hiring a new agent, and here I am. So we've got that one dialed. But now let's talk about the plan to execute that goal you described. Goal, reality, options, way forward. I get home from the office at night. I sit down with my 12-year-old. Honey, how was school today? It was great. What do you got on tap this week? I got a math test. Okay, you worried about that math test? A little bit. Well, what's the goal? What do you want to do? I'd like to get an A. What's an A? 90%. Okay, cool. Where are we at right now? Like, how you doing in math? Now we're in the first week of school in Arizona, so we're not too far along, but play along with me. We're in the, how you doing in math? Well, I've been pretty consistently getting I've been consistent at like B's. I was like, great. Okay, so you're normally in that 80s percentile. You want to be in the 90s. I love it. So this week, when's the test? It's Friday. Okay, cool. This week, how do you think we make that happen? How do we get you from where you're kind of normally sitting to that A that you desire? Now, this is a 12-year-old, right? Well, I have to study. All right, well, tell me what that means. Like, tell me how you would study. Well, I'll go in my room and I'll do math. Okay, I like that. Now, is that any different than what you're normally doing? No, I always do that. Okay, cool. Well, it's getting you B results. So what else can we do? Well, I can have so-and-so come over and we can study together. Love that. What else? Well, I heard somebody's making flashcards. Maybe I can make flashcards. Oh, I love that. What else? Oh, you can sit down with me and teach me. Okay, that's not a bad idea. What else? And you could see, all right, honey, of all of those options to get you from the B that you're normally getting to the A, which one do you want to choose? What's the combo? And it almost always is help me. but you see the point. I even go so far, I know this sounds crazy and some of you laugh. There is a framework to going to dinner with my family. I don't come home and say, all right, gang, where do we want to eat tonight? I don't know if any of you have kids and a significant other. I'm assuming you do. That's like the worst question to ever ask your family. What are we eating tonight? I don't know. Maybe it's just my family. But it's like, my wife is instantly annoyed that I'm asking what's for dinner. Like, why is it my responsibility all the time? I didn't say that, but you get it. What do we want to do? What do we currently deal with? What are our options? What's the path forward? You can see this applies all the time. Now, the next topic is similar because it relates to the kids, but it's the question triangle. I think this is probably number 2 in terms of most commented or downloaded podcast. The how to ask better questions. And if I was able to draw a triangle for you right now, I'm going to talk you through the power of questions, the power of questions, the order in which from weakest to most powerful type of question. The weakest question, if I was on this triangle and I looked at the base level of that triangle, the weakest question we could all ask starts with the word why. From there, it goes up to what. From there, it goes up to how. And then at the pinnacle of the triangle is who. Why, what, how, who. If you're drawing this on your sheet, that's how you draw it. The weakest possible question we could all ask starts with the word why. Why did you do that? Why did you think that was right? Why did you hit your sister? Why are you late? Why didn't you study? Why weren't you prepared for that meeting? Why aren't you converting? Think about the responses to the questions that you ask in business and in personal. Think about the responses you get when you ask why. Questions that start with why. Weak questions yield weak answers. I don't know about all you, but when I ask why in business and in personal, 9 times out of 10, I get a super weak response, or I get lied to, or I get watered down responses, or I get actually I see it in the chat, defensive response. With kids, it's so obvious. And I use kids as a great example because while I'm not supposed to say this, like kids' responses, they're not a hell of a lot different than the adults I work with. Like when I say, like, why did you hit your sister? What do I get? Katie, if I say to my older one or my younger one, why did you hit your sister? What do you think the other one says back?
You hit me first.
She hit me first. That's literally, I get it all the time. She hit me first, or she did something, something, something. All right, cool. Let's use that same example. If why is the weakest question, the next level up from that, how and what are somewhat interchangeable, but let's use what. If I said to my daughters are Avery and Katie, if I said to Katie, who's my younger one is usually the one that messes with my older one. I know that sounds weird, but my younger one's tough. I don't want to cross her, but she'll usually be the culprit. If I said to Katie, what could you have done differently? What could you have done instead of punched Avery? What kind of answer might I get? What if I said to Katie, next level up, how could you have handled this differently? Or even better, because they're in dance and they look up to a lot of older girls, like they're in this dance school and there's older girls, they really, really look up to them. If I said to Katie, well, how do you think some of the girls you look up to at dance would handle this situation? And then ultimately, and this sounds a little weird in the example I'm giving, but who could you study? Who could you model? Who could you be more like? Why, what, how, who? Here's a good example. Suarez has been telling me he wants to start golfing. He's a terrible golfer. I don't know if any of you guys know this about Chris Suarez. He's just not a great golfer. He's just not into sports. And I don't know if golf's really a sport. That's a different conversation. But Suarez doesn't really like golf. He's not too good at it. And so I said to Chris, Chris, why are you so bad at golf? How might he respond? I'm not bad. You're bad. Okay, Chris, what could you do differently? Or what could you do to improve your golf game? And what does Chris do? He starts going on YouTube. He starts watching golf videos. Okay, cool. Chris, how could you become a better golfer? He starts reading Golf Digest. He starts going to the driving range. Where am I going with this? What's the ultimate question? What's the ultimate answer? I'm sorry, when you get in golf. It's on the tip of your tongues. If I said, Chris, who could you learn from? He's got to go hire a coach. That's how golf almost always goes. Why am I so bad? What am I going to do? How am I going to change my approach? Oh, shit, screw it. Who am I going to hire that's going to teach me how to play? See the power there? See the power there? Now, here's my challenge for every one of you today. I want you to take that triangle and I want you to put it up on the fridge or put it somewhere where you can see it regularly. And I want to see you attempt to not start any question with the word why today. Wait till you see how hard this is. wait till you see how hard it is. But I want you to give it a shot. Do your best, especially at home, but also in the office, also with clients, attempt to not start a question with the word why. And watch what sort of questions you end up asking. And watch the response, pay close attention to the type of responses you get. Now, in my house, when I play this game, what my wife says is, don't you try to Keller Williams me. I'm on to your BS. And she's usually pretty, she's not, if I grow model followed by a no why questions, she's like, all right, get the hell out of my house. Enough already. But, she's had a lot. She gets a lot of me. My point, though, is I want to challenge you on this and see where you can go with it. All right. Next one I want to go through. We've gone through a couple good ones here. This is a more recent one, and this is the one I wish Suarez wasn't on for because he doesn't like, me using bad language, and rightfully so. But this one I did recently actually came from a book by Tim Grover known as Winning. And it's a controversial book, in my opinion. I don't necessarily think the guidance in there is fantastic, but there's components of it that I think are absolutely amazing. And there's one section in there, and I apply this very much to time management. And I'm going to share. The name of the episode was the IDGAF muscle. IDGAF. I don't give an F muscle. Now, I'm going to apply this. I'm going to apply this to time management. See, here's the thing with time management. There are a million courses, especially within our KW world, conversations around time management. At the end of the day, what is time management to me? It's learning how to say no. That's it. We've got to, saying no is what time management's all about. If every one of you looked at your calendars right now and you thought, man, I mismanaged my time, I would almost guarantee the reason that time is mismanaged is because you failed to say no in the area or to the opportunity or to the appointment that you should have said no to. In other words, you're doing something that's important to somebody else, but not nearly as important to you. That's where mismanagement happens. The ability to say no is what time management's all about. Now, how does that relate to the IDGAF muscle? Tim Grover talks about if you're on this path of success, if you're truly committed to winning, you've got to learn how to flex the I don't give an F muscle. Now, some of you are like, no problem. I flex that all the time. Good for you. You're in the minority. Most of us care what other people think, don't want to let people down, don't want to disappoint, start to kind of, rationalize why we're doing it. But the reality is, if you are on this path to success, as you all are, that's why you're here today. If you are fully committed to this path, again, like you all are, that's why you're here. You've got to get better at saying, I don't give an F, because I am on this journey and I'm committed to the thing that is aligned, the one thing, not to be too cliche, that's aligned with where I want to go. That's all the episode's about. But I want you thinking about that muscle, because if it is truly a muscle, it's like anything else. It's like your bicep, right? Like if you haven't worked out or done anything with respect to your biceps and you picked up a dumbbell, it would probably, any size dumbbell, it would feel pretty damn heavy. But over the course of time, as you do more curls and more exercises with that dumbbell, you'd have to move up in weight. You'd have to continue to challenge. That muscle has to be developed, has to be built. The ability to say no and not give an F takes time. It takes experience. It takes flexing and resistance to that flexing. Remember, resistance. If I say no, it's not important to me, and then someone talks me out of that, that means they broke through. That's the resistance I'm talking about, me fending that off. I know this may sound like a silly concept to some of you, but I want you to know I can just speak personally. Like for me, whatever success I've had, right? And I've just been fortunate where I've had a couple more W's than I've had L's. You know, like that's the game we play. You just got to win a few more than you lose and you come out okay. For me, if I look at, you know, those areas where maybe I've had some success, it has a ton to do with my ability to focus and drive and stop all the other chatter or limit the noise outside of the lane I'm pursuing. And if that's the case, that takes a lot of flexing of the GAF muscle. You follow me? Give me head nods if like you follow what I'm saying. One of the best things I ever saw around this as it pertains to time management came from a guy named Derek Sivers, who was the leader of a company called CD Baby. Half this call has no idea what CDs are. There are these little things that used to get mailed to you that played music. CD Baby, he sold that company for millions. Super successful guy and a friend of Tim Ferriss. Tim Ferriss has interviewed him a number of times, and I'll never forget, like when I read this, and I think it was in Tim Ferriss's Tools of Titans book, Derek Sivers has this concept around flexing the GAF muscle as it pertains to his calendar. And what he teaches is if it's not a hell yeah, then it's a no. If it's not a hell yeah, then it's a no. So unless he says to whatever that activity or meeting or whatever it may be, unless he says, hell yeah, I can't wait to do that, doesn't go on his calendar. So if you look at your calendar right now, and I'm sorry if some of you have meetings with one another and suddenly they get canceled. But if you've got things on your calendar right now, if you pulled it up right now and you looked at it, could you say hell yeah about every single thing that's on your calendar? And if the answer is nope, I can't, then I'm going to challenge you to maybe flex that muscle we've just been describing. If it's not a hell yeah, it's a no. Next podcast topic I want to talk about. This is a brand new one. As a matter of fact, I think it was just yesterday. Gosh, I'm almost certain it was yesterday, the day before. It's either Monday or Tuesday. And the amount of sharing, while not being at the level of others, because it hasn't had the time, on day one, this thing shot through the roof. And it's always funny because I didn't actually think it was all that good, but things that are around mindset and personal growth seem to hit more than most others. And this particular podcast, I think it was yesterday, was around choosing your hard. Choosing your hard. Might be one to listen to if you're trying to figure out, okay, let's see what all this noise is about. I don't know if it's any good. You tell me, but choose your hard. And the idea here is that whether you go left or you go right, whether you choose to do something or you choose to avoid it, whether you aim to get better or you aim to be complacent, both of these things are hard. You just got to choose your hard. What do I mean? Let's take something all near and dear, something that's near and dear to us. We're all in the real estate sales business. Lead generating every damn day is hard. It's super hard. I don't care what anybody says. Like, I built a career with a phone locked in an office, making cold calls. That's how I built my career. That was my weapon of choice. There was not a single day that no matter how advanced or experienced I was, there was not a single day I got in front of that phone and didn't want to pick it up. I don't care what anybody says. Anybody that says like lead generating every single day isn't hard is lying. It gets easier, but it's still hard. Lead generating every day is hard. Hitting your contact totals every day is hard. Practicing and role playing, script practicing, doing all these things to get better on the phone or in your lead generation is hard. Failing over and over and over again, because that's what lead generation is all about. Hearing no 99 times to get that one yes is really damn hard. Like, it's really hard. Having to have a plan and a structure and a cadence and organization to your day built around lead generation and just the business in and of itself. That's really hard. But I'll tell you what's harder, in my opinion, being broke. Like, I'll tell you what's hard, like not knowing where your next commission check is coming from. And I know there are people on this call who are in that boat right now. That's really hard, right? So I would challenge you, what's harder, lead generating every day or not knowing where your next commission check's coming from? I mentioned health, same exact exercise. It is hard to eat right almost 100% of the time. Like it's hard. It's hard not just because of the blandness of whatever it is you're eating, but just planning for it's hard. Just trying to like live a life and socialize and do these things, but eat a special way is hard. Working out and moving every day is hard. Being hydrated is hard. Going to bed for me at a reasonable hour is actually really hard because I think I've earned my wind down time. That stuff is hard. But I'll tell you what I think is even harder, cutting my life short because I'm unhealthy. Not getting to experience the things I want to experience with my wife and my kids because I'm not physically capable of doing it. That stuff is super hard. So the idea here is no matter the direction you choose, like you're under some like grand illusion if you don't think that whatever you perceive to be the easy route isn't going to be hard down the road. I think I'm looking at a lot of your faces and I think like you're kind of working this through in your head. Like I don't care. How about relationships? Right? Like, hey, I got to be careful because my wife can come walking in here at any moment. I've incorporated her into this presentation a bit more than I normally do. But I'll tell you, as it pertains to relationships, like with your significant other, I'll tell you, it is really hard. It shouldn't be this hard, but it is really hard for me to like accept blame and apologize. It's hard. It's hard to not always have it go my way. Like it's hard to not emotionally react or to train myself to not emotionally react. And by the way, I'm a student of this stuff more so than most, and it's still really damn hard. But I'll tell you what's harder, and you all know what I'm going to say, not apologizing. Like if apologizing is hard, not apologizing even harder. Why? Because it goes on not just for an hour or a day. In my house, it'll go on much longer than that. It's actually sometimes hard to say like, I forgive you. But it's harder not to say that. It's harder. I mean, it impacts so many things. And your personal world, the trickle down, that's impacting your professional world as well. Right. So it's all hard. You got to pick. You get to pick your heart. Okay. The last thing I wanted to chat around today, the last episode I want to talk around today is actually a newer one too. And it's been one that it's a mental model that's been on my radar for the past couple of weeks. I've been obsessing over it and I've been talking about it a lot recently in different business forums. And even with Chris, who's here on the call, like we've texted around it. And that's this multiplicative system. The multiplicative system. What am I talking about? What I'm talking about is that anything multiplied by 0 is in fact 0. Anything you multiply by 0 is in fact 0. Let me demonstrate what I'm talking about. Okay, I'm going to give you an example. All right. Some of you will know who I'm talking about. Don't throw it in the chat just yet, but I'm going to walk through kind of this anything multiplied by 0 is 0 and how it applies to the real world. We know in elementary school math, like I could give you some complex equation with real big numbers, but if I throw a times 0 in there, then the output is going to be 0. But how does that apply in the practical world? Okay, let's make believe that you're 6'9", you're a basketball player, you're incredibly skilled, you're fast, you can jump. You've been the best player in your city forever, right? You're the greatest. In addition, you've got all the support from that city, from your school, and from your parents. Your parents really care about your goals. They're supportive. You've got a proven track record. You were the best player at every level of basketball you've ever played. Most recently, you were the best player in the conference in your Division I basketball, on your Division I basketball team. You were the best player in that conference. Lastly, you've got a very clear path forward. You were just drafted. This is 1986. You were just drafted number 2 in the NBA draft. Now, if I stop there whether you know basketball or not, you'd guess this guy's going to be pretty good. I just kind of gave you what may be the next Hall of Famer. So it sounds like this guy's got it made. It's as good as it could possibly be. However, I'm going to throw one more bit of information in there. Even though you've got God-given talent, you've got amazing support, you've got a track record, and you know exactly how you're moving forward, you've developed a cocaine habit. What are your odds of success now? This exercise, what I just took you through, and I'm curious, does anybody know who I'm talking about? Anybody throw in the chat? There's usually one. Whoever knows the answer, you're not paying attention to me right now. This is a story of a guy named Len Bias. Len Bias died of a cocaine overdose immediately after being selected by the Celtics in 1986. He is known by many as the greatest basketball player to never play professionally. What does the story of Len Bias demonstrate for us? You could have a positive product, a solid number, a big number, performance track. But if you multiply anything by zero, it is in fact zero. Now, why am I talking about this system? Well, because a lot of us don't realize that our businesses actually run multiplicative systems. Instead, we think they're additive. A good example of an additive system, take Thanksgiving dinner. You've got turkey, not on Suarez's table. He doesn't have these things. He's got like a tomato and like a green bean or something like that. But most of us, it's turkey, it's stuffing, it's sweet potatoes, it's cranberry, it's string beans, we could go on and on and on, pie, whatever. Now, let's make believe we're making this dinner and I burnt the string beans. Just crush the string beans. They're not going to be on the Thanksgiving table. How would Thanksgiving turn out for us? How would it go? Well, it'd be just fine. It wouldn't matter. It wouldn't matter because we take that one component out, but there's still a very positive number. There's still a positive outcome. Hell, even if we burnt the turkey and there was no turkey for Thanksgiving, I would argue that in a lot of cases, it would make for an amazing story and maybe the greatest Thanksgiving you ever had. That's an additive system where you have a positive number, but they're all being added versus multiplied, as I described in the Len Bias story. So where am I ultimately going with this? What I said earlier, the vast majority of us think we're running additive systems in our business, but the reality is it's not additive, it's multiplicative. Take a company that has an absolutely amazing product, continues to add great features on top of that product, but has the shittiest customer service known to man. How's that company going to do? It's not going to go anywhere. Take the opposite, amazing customer service, but terrible product, not going to go anywhere. Take a restaurant, phenomenal food, bad service, you're not going back. Great service, bad food, you're not going back. That's multiplicative. So what I want you to do, and what I talk about in this particular podcast, I want you to analyze your business. I want you to look at the components of your business. And while you may not have a zero, do you have sections or components of your business that are in fact below one? Like if one is the standard, one is what keeps us even par, because anything multiplied by one is going to be the same number, right? If anything dips below that one, it's going to drive the output down. What in your business is potentially below that one? Hell, maybe you do have some things that are nearing zero, and that's what's standing in your way. If you start breaking down from lead generation to lead conversion, to follow-up and nurturing, to appointment, to listing presentation, both buyer and seller, to listing the property, to managing that listing or managing that buyer, the customer service, to the closing, to the post-closing. If we were to break down all these things, where are you deficient? Where are you deficient? And is there an opportunity? Like, is it possible that you kind of discounted it and you thought, you know what, not the end of the world, but the reality is, if you're being honest, it actually is multiplying, it's driving the product down, the output down. What can you fix today? All right, so I was all over the map, went through, I don't know, five random podcasts, all different sort of subjects. We're all kind of interrelated, but different subjects. But the idea here is to just get you thinking. Katie, Leslie, I mean, did we do okay? Do you think there's any, I mean, are we moving the needle for some?
That was amazing. I took pages of notes, and I think my favorite thing was the level of questions, because I've heard that theory before. However, like when you specifically were saying, well, Katie, I don't have siblings, so I was trying to come up with answers. But when you started to ask me higher level questions, it made me realize, oh, well, when you ask those higher level questions, I've actually got to think about an answer instead of react to what you're saying when you ask a low level question. So that was a huge aha for me personally in what you were saying, and the grow model of like, let's work through this problem together and come out with a solution instead of just like surface level. Well, what's your goal? Now go figure it out. So thank you.
Katie, thank you for that. I love that. Great shares. And I will tell you that both of those things, they're both leadership models, right? Like everyone here, you're all leaders, right? Like even if you don't have a team or whatever, you're leading clients every single day, right? Like your clients come to you because they want to be led. Like I go to my attorney, I don't need a breakdown of the law. I just want to be led towards a great resolution. I go to my doctor, I don't need to know exactly how medicine works. I just want him or her to give me good direction. Your people are coming to you because they want to be led. So what you described, Katie, those are two systems that are leadership systems in my mind. Great share. Thank you for that. Leslie?
Well, the takeaway for today, right, our action items, I would say is, can we get through the day without using a why question? And how do we integrate multiplicative into our business? And can you use it in a sentence by the end of the day? That's the hot new word.
I practice saying that word no less than 3 dozen times, and I still butcher it. So I'm working on it. Today's the first time I've been saying it. I haven't fumbled through it. I don't even know if I'm saying it right, by the way. I had to look it up on like Webster to see like which syllable do you emphasize. I'm serious. Try it out.
You make it sound good. So thank you.
Thank you all. I really appreciate you having me.
Yeah, thank you for sharing today. Everybody go listen to the No Days Off podcast. It's also nominated for Innovator of the Year through Inman. Is that right?
It is. Hopefully we got a shot. I don't know, maybe tomorrow I think it's tomorrow we get a chance at winning. So yes, it was nominated. Thank you for saying that.
Well, congrats, my friend. And to everybody, thank you for joining us for State of the Industry. We hope you have a wonderful week, and we'll see you next month. Bye, everyone.
Thank you all.
Thanks, Brian.